My guests today are writer-director Gregory Kasunich and producer, co-writer, and actress Lauren Noll, and their powerful and compelling Oscar-qualified short, The Heart of Texas. Director and co-writer Gregory Kasunich is an award-winning filmmaker, and his body of work includes projects for Taylor Swift, the Pentatonics and the Somerset, even DreamWorks, Disney, and Lucasfilm, and so many others. Even his editorial and portrait photography has been published in several publications, but his films have been nominated and awarded in festivals all over the world. And then we have lead actress, co-writer, and producer Lauren Noll. She's a filmmaker with a master's degree in acting from Harvard University, and her curiosity around other roles in filmmaking led her to write, direct, and star in her first award-winning short film, Honor, in 2020. Well, she followed that up with filmmaking debuts with Gen 5 and Clean Slate, which was awarded a grand jury prize at the Collaboration Filmmakers Challenge, and The Heart of Texas, which has won over 20 awards. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome filmmakers Gregory Kasunich and Lauren Noll and their dramatic and compelling Oscar-qualified short film, The Heart of Texas. Welcome to both of you.
Hi, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Well, I have to say right off the bat here, I love this short film. So whose idea was it to create such a compelling story?
I've got to hand that one over to Gregory. Yeah.
The initial inspiration came from me. I sat down and wrote a script, and that just kind of sat in my drawer for a few years. And it wasn't until I met Lauren at a film festival, I saw her film, Honor, which is absolutely incredible. I just had to talk to her. And we just had one of those kismet moments where on the flight back, we ended up at the same airport, sat talking for hours. And eventually we decided to take that script out, tear it down to the studs, rewrite it from the bottom up with her in mind as the lead role. And like I said, she's a great director. She's a great storyteller, fantastic actor. So I really lucked out by meeting her. And we put the thing back together. But yeah, the central idea came from me, but the whole film came from us.
Ah, well, Lauren, what was the catalyst for you to fall in love with this story?
Well, so, from the origin of Greg bringing the film to me, even that pre-existing draft, the central dilemma of the story was always the same. And to me, I mean, that's the thing that still is the heart of the film. Now we kept that intact, and it was just so compelling to me that it made all the sense in the world to jump on. I think it was really then that we started talking about the world building together and the characters and how we can get them like a little bit more down in the mud with each other to just ground this story a little bit more. And that's when we shifted it from California to Texas. And, we built the world-worn, aspiring country singer who hasn't had her break yet. We built that character together. But if it weren't for that compelling dilemma that we could build the film around, I don't know that we would be here. So it was, the seed of the idea was really, really strong.
Well, the location was perfect. It would have not had the same feel if it was California. It would have never worked if it was in Nashville. So Texas really is the obvious choice for this story for a lot of reasons. Now, I have literally lost count how many times I've actually watched this film. I even watched it again late last night because I want to make sure that I'm not missing a thing, because with this film, there is so much to unpack here. First, I love the contrast between the two main characters. You have Janie May, an up-and-coming recording artist, chasing the dream of stardom, and then the undocumented immigrant who is chasing the dream of providing a better life for his family in America. Were both of these stories all about chasing the American dream?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, you nailed it. So much of the film is an exploration of that. What is your ambition? What is your intention? How do you go about trying to build a better life for yourself? And what does a better life mean for you? And we found it really interesting that Janie's job is the same as Jesus's job. They work at the same place. They work in the same exact diner. His dream is to be there to provide for his family. Her dream is to run away from that to something that she feels is better for her career. And we did a lot of little things in the film. Like, if you notice, both of their costumes are red, white, and blue. She's got the blue denim jacket, the red dress, the white boots. He's got the red flannel. And we just try to create these little moments to kind of show that, like, no matter what your background is, what your story is, or what your dream is, if you're here, if you're contributing, if you're working, if you're a part of the community, you're an American. And that's kind of what we wanted to talk about, and how there's no real villain here. But there are mistakes that are made in people who have certain privileges and opportunities that other people don't.
And that's the thing I also loved about this film, that there's no villain, because that's not what this film is about. But the thing that I did notice is I noticed the similarities in color. The red and white, I was like, that's done for a reason. And because of the characters, it's almost like you could take an imaginary invisible line and draw it right down the middle of this film and put Jenny on one side and put him on the other. And you're looking at two lives chasing the same thing. And I loved, it's almost like, it's funny because they're at a diner. So my thought is thinking in and out. So you have Alessandro, who is in this job to provide for his family. She's in this job, but she's looking for a way out because she's got bigger dreams. And how many recording artists, how many actors have ever waited tables? So to me, it was a perfect character building for both sides.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, when we write these characters, we tried to pull a lot from, real stories. And I think Lauren brought a lot of her lived experience to this as an actor who's been in that position. So I know you're going to say something, Lauren.
Oh, no, just exactly that. I mean, I think, when we were building Janie May together in, this new version of the script that Greg and I were tackling together, it was, I was still bartending at the time that we were writing this. I mean, I was bartending until last year. And I felt I was far, past the moment in my life that I thought I would need to keep doing that, right? And and there's just, I wanted to build in some of that grit and some of the carried, what's the word I'm looking at? Like almost shame. It's not shameful to make your money however you need to, to make your money, but there's something about having to do it when you've set out to do something else, that I think sometimes for an artist can feel just dehumanizing. And yet on the other side of that coin, you have someone who's come here from somewhere else who's just like dreamed of that opportunity so that he can provide for his family. And Jesus has probably an enormous amount of skills and could do a number of things beyond dishwashing, but he's grateful for that opportunity, whereas she just feels that it's the thing that, is dragging her down. Right. And I just wanted to build from my own experiences of feeling that way, in terms of the long haul chase and the highs and the lows of, like little wins and then rejections and all of that comes along the way. And so that when it feels sometimes like when you get a big chance and a big opportunity, like it might be the last one every time,
Yeah, and the thing that I loved about, and especially for what both of you just said, I had a mafia friend tell me once, he goes, every job, regardless if it's the garbage man, is an honorable job.
Of course.
But with Janie May, and this happens with everybody, it happens to me. You're chasing a dream and you're doing something at the moment that you're really tired of doing. So our internal instinct is we can't serve two masters. We're going to choose one. And it's always going to be the one that we haven't reached yet. And that's what Janie's doing.
Of course.
But this film, and ladies and gentlemen, if you are a filmmaker, if you're seasoned, if you're up and coming, you've got to watch this film because there's little elements in this film that glue this whole story together. I mean, even when Janie's name got called on the radio, and then she's in the back and she's trying to leave, but she sees Alessandro and she's like, and I had to replay this a few times because I didn't catch it the first time. She goes, "Who's that?" Because she realizes, oh, that's a new guy. So their paths cross immediately right there in a split second. We don't think anything about it, until she leaves. And then at the same time, if people pay attention close enough, he's also leaving. Of course, there's that shot of him, his shift's ended, hers didn't, but again, she's got the eye on the prize. So I love that interaction in the back of the kitchen.
Yeah, well, and not only that, not only does she asks Alejandro, the line cook, about Jesus, the dishwasher. He's new, right? But right before she does that, she's not looking, and she runs into him. She bumps into him with her her bin of dishes. Yeah, and then she notices him and is like, "Oh, who's that guy? I've never seen him before." And then she's on her way out, and then
Yeah, and there's
5 minutes later
there's 3 bumps in this film.
Right. Yep.
And I knew that every bump meant something, but only after I went back a few more times, because I'm piecing it all together. And because I like once I watch a film for the first time, I just want to watch it all the way through. I want to see what the audience is seeing, and then I go back and then let's break this down. So we're going to break this down. Now, we know that he leaves out the back door. She's basically trying to get herself prepared to go to the radio station. And then she leaves. And then she hits him on that. Technically, it's basically almost an abandoned road or a shortcut to the major highway. And how many of those do we have in Texas? So that I knew exactly what she was doing. We do it around here all the time. But when she hit him, one of the things that caught my eye right off the bat, and I really thought it was great, was the shot on the inside of the car. After she knew she had done something, the whole shot was blurred, because that's what happens to our mental faculties if we're in an accident. We can't comprehend. Things are not clear. Everything's blurry. We're like, what just happened? So that shot set up the next events when she gets out of the car. So I have to say, I love the way that shot was done, because it really started, well, in a way, her whole world becomes blurry. And but it was perfectly done. And I know that Brent Johnson was your cinematographer. So I have to ask on this part of it, when you had him come on as the cinematographer, what was his vision to turn this story into a visual one?
It's a really good question. First off, that observation is spot on. That's exactly what we did. And, even the frame is off. You're not really seeing the top of her head. Everything just feels off. And for that, we actually took the lens off of the camera a little bit. So it's actually, the lens is even separated from the camera, and it's floating in front of the sensor, which gave us that sort of like completely discombobulated feel. And that's the type of thing that Brent Johnson brought to this project. I mean, he is a phenomenal DP. He shot music videos, commercials, feature films, short films. And we went down to Texas about 3 or 4 weeks prior to shooting, and we just walked all the sets, and we walked all the locations, and we placed the car on the side of the road. And really, we designed this kind of structure where in the diner, when her world is solid, the camera is kind of being pushed by her, right? She's walking and the camera's being pushed back, and then we're kind of she's leading the camera through the kitchen, and she's in her world. She's excited, but it's locked on rails. And so all that was done in this like big, gigantic, sweeping Steadicam shot that we then cut in, some inserts. And then of course, after the accident, everything is handheld. Everything is very close. It's very tight. It's very claustrophobic. It's erratic. And again, we shot that all in one big scene, and then of course went in for our close-ups and our inserts. And so we're sort of mirroring the psychological state of each of these of Janie's, emotional and mental situation. And then finally, when we move into the radio station at the end, it's completely different, where she's sort of being drawn by the camera inevitably sort of towards her final destination. And so she's back in her world, she's back in control, but that control is now kind of, we can't see where the camera is going, right? We don't know what's around the next corner. So
Yeah. And
a lot of
Lauren, yeah, I know. And we're going to get to that radio station scene because there's a lot to break down there as well. But Lauren, I want to ask you, because from an acting point of view, you're getting out of the car. And now we're going from a stationary shot to handheld. Mm-hmm. For you, I mean, you brought your A game to this role, because the framing of your emotion, the camera shots are close. I mean, it's just like we're right there living your fear, living not only just the fear of what just happened, but watching your whole career go up in smoke all at the same time. I mean, what was your mindset to prepare for that role and even for that scene?
I've tried to talk about this a lot this year. We get these kind of questions, and I keep thinking, well, we wrote this film together. And again, like we said, we fashioned some of her journey. I mean, it's not identical to mine. I don't live in Texas. I don't have an accent. I'm not really a blonde. I'm not, I learned to play the guitar for the film, actually. I sing, but I was a musical theater singer, not really a country singer. And, she's not me, right? Like there are some things that are transformative, but to me, in her core and in her desires and in her chase and in this belief that she knows she's good and she has something to bring to the table, but she just doesn't quite get why it hasn't come to fruition yet. All of those things I just found were in the deepest part of me, right? And we'd been building the script together, and I don't think by the time we got to set and I didn't have any sort of actor warm up, actor, preparation that I did. I actually think an actor's job sometimes is more to get out of their own way, to just get out of the way and exist in the circumstances rather than to, have this piece of preparation and this thing built up and this, what I mean? And sort of any sort of warm up or task. And maybe actors have different pieces of their craft that they'll bring to the table to get them into that state. But honestly, I think what I had to do and the story just mattered so much to me. Because I just wanted to do justice for every dreamer out there, is that I just needed to get out of the way and get in the moment. And, our crew was so wonderful. Greg allowed me that space by the time, we got there, and I had complete trust in him that he was going to get this thing. Brent, he and I had this little dance locked in. And once we got that first tank, and I was like, oh, okay, we're locked in, we're dancing. Carlos, the actor who played Jesus, was just giving me so much. His performance is so good. I think I just had to let go and get in,
When you think about anybody, if they have a fender bender or they hit somebody, you portrayed it to where when you got out of the car, you're not supposed to know what happened. Your mind is not in the realm of, okay, let's figure out what just happened. Or no, you're trying to figure out what the hell just happened here. And you portrayed that perfectly. And it's almost like you just went with it, went for it, and it all came together. And like you said, between you, the cinematographer, Gregory, it's this massive dance. But it worked because I can tell with this film, there was a lot of preparation that was done. But this storyline and all the small elements in this story are just incredible to watch. And I even had to think back with when she put Jesus in the back seat of the car,
Mm-hmm.
and his first thought is I'm undocumented. I can't go to the hospital. And she's like, what do you mean you can't go to the hospital? They have to treat you. And I was sitting there and I literally paused it and I'm like, well, yeah, they have to treat you. I mean, I'm in Texas. I'm like, yeah, they can't turn anybody around. I mean, I don't care what hospital it is. But then I got to thinking, he hasn't been in America this long. He doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He doesn't know the system. He doesn't know if he does get into the system, if he'll be billed and how much that's going to cost. And he doesn't have that money. There's a fear of authority just in general, that is he going to get the care he actually needs, right? There's a fear of authority from who's going to be in that waiting room, who's going to say, hey, I'm next. Who's this guy who's getting treated before me? Is he supposed to be here? Let me make a call, right? So there's so many steps along the way. And when we came up with this storyline, one thing we did was we talked to a producer named Sol Bautista, who came on the film to sort of be a cultural consultant. And we asked all these questions. We said, is this something that would really happen? Would somebody really be afraid? Would they really not want to go to the hospital? And she said, absolutely. This happens all the time for the reasons I just said. And then, horrifically, we saw this happen when the Key Bridge collapsed in Baltimore. There was at least one reported immigrant worker who refused medical care after being saved, for the reasons that we just talked about. So it's not unreasonable to think that somebody would be so afraid and so confused and so uneducated in the system and not know how much it's going to cost and all those things, that they would say, no, I don't want that.
Yeah, and I was really kind of surprised, as an audience, we're always just trying to add to the storyline. We're adding, well, what ifs? Well, and I kept thinking all she had to do was drive him to the hospital regardless what he was thinking, because she lives there. She knows what the law is. She knows hospitals can't turn people away, but she freaked out.
Yeah.
And then you add another element of tension. You add the cop. Why
That's
was
exactly
that extra element so important?
Well, I think Janie wants to do the right thing, right? And she's like, there's a pharmacy, or who knows where she's actually going to take him, right? She's like, let me just calm this guy down and get him to safety or get him to help. And then once that cop turns the corner, she realizes now she's in trouble, right? She is culpable. She is to blame here. All this is going to come back on her. And she does actually have an opportunity to say to the cop, hey, there's a very scared man in my car. I hit him. We're going to work this out. How can we get him to safety? But in the back of her head, she's like, well, he asked me not to help. He asked for no cops. He asked for no hospital. And so she realizes that all the way back there in the back of her mind, that her dream is still alive, right? She can still make it. She can still get out of this. And she still, I think, wants to help him, but realizes in that moment, she does have that privilege. She does have that. In just being, we even talked to police officers. What's really cool is the guy who plays the sergeant. He is the actual sergeant of the Waco Police Department. And so we got him and we said, hey, how far back would you stop? Would you treat a cute girl in a dress and boots differently than you would treat someone else? And he said, honestly, and gave us a lot of really good information about how to run that scene. So that's why it all played together, because I think there was still that opportunity where Janie would say, let me get him to safety, and then the cop pulls in, and all of a sudden that changes the dynamic.
Yeah, and I was sitting there making notes on that scene because I'm like, okay, because I was playing what if, and I'm like, wait a minute. She stopped and rendered aid, so she's not getting in trouble for that. The only thing she would get in trouble for, because I know in the state of Texas, the first thing they're going to check is your cell phone record. And if they find out that she was actually on the phone and connected, that right then and there is the only thing that's going to get her in trouble. And, right. But I don't know how many people noticed or even figured that out in that scene. But I loved the way that you edit it. You know what makes this film even better is to know that the cop was real.
He was the best. Yeah, Sergeant Stephen Drews. He was so wonderful to have on set. Such a good collaborator. He was excited to be there. I mean, and he was manning, like, keeping our road shut down for us that day at the same time as, we were like plugging him into a scene. And I mean, obviously it served us also in just, here we have somebody who's not an actor, but his lived experience of this is real. And so that's why I think it just works so well in the film. And I mean, also we get the real car, the real, uniform. Like, you don't have sometimes the movie cops, you're like, oh, that's fake. But yeah, so that gave us that authenticity
But
as
it
well.
was the line. It was the line that you gave him to say. And that was really almost pouring salt into the wound in Janie.
Hmm. Yeah.
Be careful
Yeah.
when you're out here. People may not be
Yeah.
paying attention. They could hit you. And I'm like, oh man, in other words, a cop is telling her what she's living right now.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. We toyed with that one a lot, and went back and forth on having it in and taking it out. And I think at the end of the day, I love that
Just
it
needed
stayed.
that little bit of levity in that moment
Yeah.
to be like, oh, so ironic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's almost like putting the log line in the middle of your film.
Sure. Exactly. Yeah. The character like says the title of the movie in the middle, which we actually do in the song as well. You know what? Really quickly though,
Uh-huh.
what we were just talking about, in terms of all of these layers and everything building up, I think, you know, there's this thing we can do when we watch it and dissect it, and I think that's why you make a movie, is for an audience to do this, right? And yeah, we can go like, oh, she realizes like her dream is still alive, and woo, she's in trouble if this happens. But the reality of that moment is that she still is in fight or flight. And we always have hindsight, right? All of us as humans, we have hindsight. So she goes home that night, she's going to think about it and be like, what was I thinking? I needed to just take him to the hospital, especially after all that happened. And she doesn't know if he's okay anymore. And she knows that he needed to get care. But in the moment, she's just trying to do right by this guy. And she's like, well, what is the right thing to do? To take him somewhere that's against his wishes, or to try and to get him help on his own terms? And like, she probably starts doubt. I mean, I don't know the law. I didn't go to law school. I don't know the law like the back of my hand. If somebody said that to me, I might start to question myself and be like, well, shoot, yeah, maybe they are going to ask him about his status. I don't know. Do they do that? Do they not do that at the hospital? I don't know. And she just doesn't want, all she wants to do is like, the right thing. And yes, of course, there's the fear of repercussion, and will she get in trouble, and is she going to miss this opportunity? But at that moment, this is all just flying. It's not well articulated hindsight vision. She doesn't, her choices that she's making in the moment are based on the best thing she can think of in the emotional state she's in, given the circumstances at that time. And yeah, one by one things just keep adding on. You've got the accident to start, then he doesn't want to go to the hospital, and then the cop turns around the corner. And I think,
Closed. And
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's
Yeah, but one of the scene that I think everybody has to pay attention to was when he left the car, and she didn't know that he had crawled out until she got back to the car, and she only spent, of course it's a short film, she only spent a few seconds, or let's just say a minute, and trying to figure out where in the world he went. She's looking
mhm,
around, there's an open field, she sees nothing. But then she gets back in the car, and it's the look on her face, and right then and there she's making a mental choice. What do I do? But at the same time, the overpowering thought, they called my name out on the radio, and that's where I've got to be. Because he's gone, so she's kind of left with an open choice here. And
mhm,
and in a way, I think the audience is left with, what's the right choice? What's the wrong choice? And in this case, the line is so blurred. It is
mhm.
so difficult for anybody to figure out, if she's right or wrong. And that's what I loved about that scene. But Lauren, the look on your face in that scene is gold.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it's just like you said. I mean, we didn't want anybody twisting any mustaches, we even the cop. And we could have built a scene where we took, where we have more commentary as filmmakers on the police force or, whatever. But really, we just wanted everybody out there trying to do the best they could in this like dire circumstance, this accident, right? And so what do you do in that situation? And yeah, I mean, Janie, she's a bit negligent at best, but it's an accident, right? She's out there trying to do her best. Jesus is trying to do his best. The cop was just doing his job. And I think I love that that's where you landed as well. It's not easy to this isn't, black and white.
No, not in
Yeah.
this case. It's not. And
Exactly. Yeah.
and like Gregor, like you said in the beginning, here's Janie. She's at the diner. You know, the she's the one pulling the camera shot around. We're following her. Hey, we're gonna be on this amazing journey. She's on the verge of finding stardom. But then she arrives at the radio station and it changes. Now the camera, like you said, is pulling her in. I don't know how many times I've watched this whole radio station part of the film. But it was extremely interesting because there was the third bump, which I thought was a brilliant move because she was coming out of the restroom. She bumps into the janitorial lady, a presumed undocumented worker. And I went, wow. She bumped into Jesus in the back of the kitchen, leaving. We know what happened in the middle of the film. And then you bring it full circle with another reminder that her mind is not where it should be in all three cases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So brilliant.
Thank you.
But
Yeah.
that bump was a reminder to her and the audience that she just did that out on the road. So again, I love these little nuances in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And just her entire worldview has changed in this little time, right? She bumps into the guy at the beginning and says, "Who is this guy?" And at the end she says, "I'm sorry. It's my fault." And for the first time, she's seeing these people in her life and in her world in a different way. And she's taking responsibility, at least emotional responsibility, for what happened.
Yeah.
And so when that guitar gets slung around her and she's pushed into that moment and she's on the mic, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if she's going to be able to sing and or what she's going to say. And I think that, just going back into that space of what just happened, she took this song that she wrote, which is full of cowboy cliches, Star Spangled Dreams and, It's Dark Tonight in the Heart of Texas. And, took something that could be very cliched and performed it with such authenticity and such rawness and such emotional authenticity to what she just experienced, that all of a sudden these cliches have this, hopefully, a much deeper meaning to her and to the song.
Well,
Yeah.
with each bump, she apologized for all three, which to me showed there is deep inside she's a good person.
Sure.
Her head is just wrapped up in the thought of wanting to make it big and nothing else matters. She is passionate, she is focused, but deep down inside she's a good person.
Of course, she's a good person. And it just goes to show, I mean, I think that's another thing that we're looking at is what is the cost of your dream? We're looking at the big American dream and everybody deserves a chance to chase theirs, right? But at what cost? And especially at what cost to others who are on their own journey. The price of my American dream should not cost you yours. It should not infringe upon yours, right? And so yeah, when is sorry not enough, right? Come on, Janie. Like, you got to stop bumping into people, right? At the end of the day, yeah, I think she does apologize the first time. Obviously, in the middle, she's distraught, trying to do the right thing. At the end, you can tell the apology feels more, emotionally grounded, more genuine, but she still bumped into this person because she was still in her own head thinking about her own thing she had to do next and her own what she'd just come from. And you know, the next thing she's got to work on is a little more awareness.
Well, yeah. Well, the scene where she is singing her song at the radio station really became a metaphor. I mean,
Hmm.
but it brought, if people will pay attention to the words of that song, it literally brings the whole storyline together. And by creating this song, which I understand that both of you, as well as Aaron Konzelman, I think I said that right,
Yeah.
wrote this song, and which I thought was very, very cool. Not only did you write the script, you actually wrote the song. But of course, he plays Harlan.
Hmm.
When the camera
Mhm.
moves in to the studio, the moment I saw him, I'm like, where have I seen him before? And of course, I live on IMDb, and I'm looking, I'm like, none of this rings a bell, but I've seen him before. He's got the face, he's got that beard, the hat,
Yeah, yeah.
something. Can you tell me, is there somewhere that we know him from?
The Voice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. He was on what
Yeah.
was
Pretty funny on The
22,
Voice.
23? Yeah.
He was on The Voice.
Yeah.
That explains it.
And I think
Wow.
he was his coach.
Blake Shelton.
Was
Oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Now, how did y'all come together to write a song for that one section of the film?
Well, we met him at the same festival in Waco where Gregory and I met that same year. So, I just remembered once Gregory and I were connecting and working on this script, and we were talking about moving it to Texas and making her a songwriter, and we needed this hometown hero. I was like, "Did you meet Aaron Konzelman in Waco that year?" And he had as well. And Aaron and I think I just remember like sipping whiskey, sipping on a bourbon at the upstairs bar at the movie theater with him, and hearing about his journey. And I knew he was on The Voice, and I followed him and become a fan of his songwriting. I mean, my God, his touch with the guitar, his voice. He's just an incredible musician. And he was he has the right look, right, for that country star, that hometown hero. So it made sense to put him on camera for Harlan. But then we were talking about the song, and I was like, he's the one we should partner with to build the song as well. And I mean, it was just the right move. It was so those sessions were so fun.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
sat together on Zoom with guitars in our laps and, throwing out chord ideas and is it should be in 3/4 or 4/4 and, what are the lyrics and what's the chorus? And it took a couple rounds, but we finally kind of distilled it down and
Yeah.
yeah, it was incredible.
Well,
And of course he's
no, go ahead, Lauren.
oh no, and of course he's an incredible guitar player, and I was just brand brand spanking new trying to learn how to play a G chord, and yeah, so he was also throwing me little tips and tricks so that I'd be able to do the thing for the movie as well.
Now, I want to bring up a scene that
Hmm.
I have played so many times that I have literally lost count. And I want you to tell me about it because the way that I view it, the way that I broke it down, is one of the most brilliant things I've seen on film. And ladies and gentlemen, you have to watch this so closely, not just with your eyes. You have to use your ears because if you only look, you're going to miss something extremely important here. I want to bring up the ending shot. Jesus climbs over the fence into the open field. Number one. Does his life end in America the same way it began by climbing over the fence to find a better life?
That's the question.
Mhm.
That's the question. Yeah, I mean, we we couldn't possibly end the story definitively because whatever fate happens for each of the characters, it asks a new question and it starts a new discussion.
Mhm.
If Janie wins, she's going to have to perform this song for the rest of her life, knowing what had happened and at what cost it took. And she'll have to play it on stage and record it and all of that. If she loses, that's what was it all for? It's another defeat for her, and a very, very powerful defeat. With Jesus, similarly, yeah, he climbed over a fence to get his freedom again and to seek a better life. And in the end, he does collapse, and we don't know if he continues on or if that's where his story ends. But regardless, there's ramifications to that. He's never going back to that diner, right? He is injured probably for the rest of his life in some way. And so we just wanted to continue the conversation about that. And then, yeah, we also don't even know what the reality is because we're seeing these intercut moments while she's playing guitar. So is she imagining that he's gotten away and this is what has happened to him, or is there a different story that actually happened in reality? We kind of wanted to leave that a little vague as well.
Well,
Sure.
there's something extremely special about that scene. And ladies and gentlemen, whenever you have the opportunity to see this film, you better, I'm going to warn you now, you need to be paying attention and pay attention with your ears. Like I said, I played this scene over and over again because then I heard something and I went, "Oh my gosh." I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks because when you show the ending shot, if people are not paying attention, they're thinking the wind is blowing, and it's not. The ending shot is we're actually hearing the roar of a crowd, and it told me that Janie May became a star.
Yeah, so that's a really great observation. I'm glad I'm glad you picked up on that. So we do this thing twice. At the beginning, she finishes her montage. She finds out that she's a finalist. She falls back into relief. We go to the title and we hear applause, right? And those applause descend into sizzling bacon and eggs, which is her reality, right? She's not there yet. She's imagining this audience in her mind, and at the end we hear this applause, right? And then those applause transition into the sound of the Texas cicadas. And so the last thing you actually hear is the sound of cicadas in the field as we go out.
The blending is
Mm.
astonishing, but it's genius because that's the reason I had to watch the scene over and over again just for the absolute few seconds of the end because I'm like, wait a minute. And
Yeah.
I had to, and I mean, I'm cranking up the speakers because I'm like, I want to make sure I got it right. But it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's just it. Like, are people roaring in the studios at this huge moment? Is it just in her head? Um, it doesn't really matter at that point, right? Because it asks the bigger question. What was it all about?
And you
Mhm.
blended their lives even to the very end with the music score. You
Hmm.
blended the colors of their clothes. You blended their lives, their dreams, and down to the music score. Ladies and gentlemen, there are just a few films this season that you can just say that are brilliant. And The Heart of Texas is one of them. And now that you're Oscar qualified, what has the audience's reaction to the film been at all of the film festivals?
Overall, it's been incredible. We've taken this film from Beloit, Wisconsin to Sofia, Bulgaria, and it travels. People relate to the characters. They relate to the central conflict. They understand the ambition and chasing your dream. It really does translate, which has been incredible. And we've had conversations with healthcare workers. People have come to us in tears. We've had conversations with children of immigrants, and some hard conversations and some really nice conversations about just the film craft. And I do have to say, one of the major pieces of feedback we've gotten is just the acting. And I can't say enough about Lauren's performance, and I think many of our awards that we've won for this film have been for her performance, and so that's been another thing that we've heard a lot about, which is, the craft has been rewarded. The editing and the acting and the music has all been awarded, and people have been responding to all these different elements, so it feels good.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
no, go ahead, Lauren.
And Carlos's performance as well. I think I owe my performance to him and what he gave to me, and I just think I just think he deserves all the praise in the world as well, because this film couldn't have worked if we didn't have someone as skilled of a craftsman as Carlos is, and as sort of giving of as an artist as he is. So yeah, no, I think it took everyone, and people. We've had such positive feedback, and we've been fortunate to have a really great festival run and many awards. But we're also making some people really mad. Like there's a small majority, but we have made some people mad too, and I think that's just as valid of a response, because good, you should be mad, you know what I mean? And I just think across the board people are really responding to like the situation and the circumstance, and that it's not easy, that it's complex, and yeah, just like the lived in characters are really resonating. So
I don't know why anybody would get mad.
well,
I mean,
not us, but the story, I mean, it's infuriating
yeah,
that it
it's supposed to be.
This guy.
yeah.
I mean, the whole point of a short film, the whole point of a short film far outweighs the power of a feature.
Mm-hmm.
Features have a lot of wasted space. Shorts get to the point.
Yeah.
But a lot of stories this year are very, what I call dramatic, traumatic, compelling, gut punching, gut wrenching, heart stopping, heartbreaking. That's a lot of the films this year. But that's the power of a short.
Mm-hmm.
I've only seen a few that actually made me laugh. But this film has every element that makes a short film perfect, because you took the time to focus on every single little detail. And that's what I love about this film.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think we also get a few laughs at the beginning there, when the manager's a little upset about the musician early, and so it's nice that we could hit all those beats. And you're right, writing a short it's economy. You really have to be economical with your storytelling, and again, to shout out one more member of our team, the editor Wes Langdon. I thought he did a really good job of tracking those beats and making sure that they felt earned and lived in, and not too long or too short. And I thought that was
and I was going to say that's another thing about this film, and that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves in shorts is, why is it dragging? This film does not drag. You get to the point. When I start seeing time codes of short films over 20 minutes, I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes. And, it's kind of like people, I've had people tell me, yeah, we got it down to 26 minutes. It was at 29 and we had to cut stuff out. But if you don't notice the cuts, then you did great. But this film, you watch it from beginning to end and you do not let us rest. But yeah, I have to hand it to you. I love the funny line from the manager, because I know so many recording artists, and it's like, musicians, one of these days we're going to see a film when they go, filmmakers.
Yeah, and fairly so.
yeah. But this film, ladies and gentlemen, I can rave all day long about this film. And the Oscar-qualified short, The Heart of Texas, is about an aspiring country singer, Janie May, played by the wonderful and extremely talented Lauren Noll in this film, who races to the studio after her overnight diner shift when she collides with an undocumented worker, changing the course of both their futures. Now, this is a film in the art of storytelling. I should say it's also in the art of filmmaking because this film is that good. Mirroring the lives of two people who are chasing the American dream. One is an aspiring singer dreaming of stardom, and then we have an undocumented worker whose dream is to provide a better life for his family who is still living in Mexico. Another element of this film. Their lives collide, leaving one dying to make it and the other one dying to survive. This film is compelling. It's tense and it's heartbreaking. But 13 minutes and 56 seconds that will leave you on the edge of your seat and your heart in your hands. And I want to thank you both, Gregory and Lauren, for sharing this absolute incredible short film that deserves every award it's ever received. And who knows, in the next few weeks, we're going to find out if you make it to the Oscar shortlist.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's our pleasure, honestly. Thank you so much for having us.
You're very welcome. And again, ladies and gentlemen, when you have the opportunity, and all of you will soon have the opportunity, if not now or in the next few weeks, to see all of the Oscar qualified films, you've got to put The Heart of Texas at the top of your list, because this film is something to see, something to feel, something to absorb, and just let it wash over you so you can not only understand this story, which is an important story for all of us, but at the same time, again, this film is a lesson in acting, a lesson in storytelling, and a lesson in filmmaking. So as for me, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for watching. You'll either see me at the movies or from the red carpet.